Hey guys, Stoopy here with another ARCS video. We have this from Harsh, who recorded this quarterfinal match between Frack and Blue Spruce. You can check out his Twitch channel where he streamed this, but we're just going to do a post-commentary video and kind of just look at it after the fact and see what went well, what maybe didn't go so well, and kind of see some really awesome strategies here. So right off the bat, we see Blue is starting the game. Their leader is Fuel Drinker, and they're using the 2 fuel they had to start to move their ships around in their prelude. Now they have 4 building actions with their 2 construction card, and so they're building a city, they're building a starport, and then they're going to build, I believe, 2 ships here. And this is a great display of how important spacing is and claiming territory is in ARCS. So in a 3-player game or 2-player game, you're going to have 2 clusters just wiped out, not in play. And so that really limits the building slots and where you can actually expand. And so Blue's already claimed his territory. He's claiming the fuel planet, and he's kind of added another ship where he already had his initial starport. We see Red here is going to do something similar. They're going to use the fuel to move some ships around. And so here they have a fuel planet. They can build a city or a starport. For them, they're the quartermaster as their leader, and so they're incentivized to build more starports. So when they do a battle as the attacker, they can rebuild and repair their ships based on how many starports they control. So this is a really powerful leader if you have the right setup, and so to get that, you need to use your initial resources just to make sure that happens. So he spent his fuel, he spent a construction card, and now it's White's turn, and White is the Mystic. Mystic starts with outrage in the material and also outrage in fuel. And so this can be pretty tough. So with Mystic, if they don't have a construction card to build a starport and to build a couple of ships, it may be really tricky for them. If they do have a construction card, definitely play it. Even if it's a 4-pip card, they should just play it and just use the 3 pips. So build 2 ships, build a starport is what I would do. But let's say they don't have a construction card, so that may be tricky. So here, if they're pivoting, they're going to use their initial resources of a psionic and a relic here. So they actually cannot do this. This is a mistake. So they can't use their psionic to influence. And so the psionic relic combo does work, but it only works if the lead card is a mobilization or an administration card. Not a big deal here, but something that I think it can be easy to miss, that the psionic relic combo is powerful, but it does need the right lead card. And then we see them pivot with the tax action to get a psionic and weapons. Here we see Red, they're taxing. So they have a psionic and they have weapons, and now they're doing 1 influence. For the court, we have Loyal Marines, we have Mass Uprising, we have Loyal Pilots, and Song of Freedom. Red goes for Song of Freedom. That one is interesting because they're right next to White's city, but White has 3 ships there. And then we see White surpass with the 5. They also are spending a psionic, and so they also could spend their weapon as a psionic, and so they're just going to tax. 2 times. And I think they're going to influence as well. So I think Mystic is a very strong leader, but the outrage that you have to begin it can be very, very hard. And so we see some influencing here. We see Loyal Marines, and then Song of Freedom, and then we see Blue is just copying. I think they're just going to tax the fuel. So again, Blue is not done moving, so they have a material planet they're next to, they have a weapon planet they're next to, They also have a relic planet they're next to. So they're not done moving. They may want to claim those building slots. And so fuel's going to help them with that. We see white playing the 2 aggression card. They're going to use a weapon as a psionic to secure, or no, they're going to move. And then they're going to secure a Song of Freedom, so that's going to return Red City. It's going to take a captive for their Tyrant box, for the Tyrant ambition. And then we see Silver Tongues. So Silver Tongues is a very strong lore card, or guild card. And then we see another secure. So we have Loyal Marines, Loyal Empaths for white. That's really, really strong. But their board presence is kind of lacking here. They don't have enough ships. Now we see blue seizing here. And they're playing a mobilization card, and they're just going to do 1 influence with this. They're going for Loyal Pilots. I think that's a strong move. It's not as good, perhaps, as Silver Tongues. It's not as good as Mass Uprising, and so maybe safe. We also see Song of Freedom back in the court. Now we see Reds moving another ship in, and I think we're going to see a fight here. And so they have 1 move and then 1 fight. So because they have Signal Breaker as their lore card, it does make sense to use Assault Dice. So they're going to ignore the first intercept hit they have. And then because they have Quartermasters, they're going to heal any damage they roll. And so they have 1 self-hit, but they're going to immediately heal it. And so they do 2 hits. They're going to take the trophy. And then now it's Blue's turn here. And they're playing another 2 card, declaring Tycoon again. And they're going to spend a relic to secure Loyal Pilots. And so we see Guild Struggle here. So this could be very, very unfortunate for white here. So because the lead card is administration card, and because red has a psionic, they can do something similar to the psionic relic combo. Even though they don't have a relic, what they can do is they can play a psionic and then pivot with the aggression card. So that's what they decided to do. So they're going to play a psionic, and they're going to influence Guild Struggle, and then they're going to, with their 1 action from their aggression card, they're going to secure it, and now they can take a card, most likely from white here. So Loyal Marines would be unfortunate because they didn't get a chance to use it, but they're going for Loyal Empaths, which is probably the stronger choice. We see now Galactic Bard is in the court. Yeah, so what to do if you're white? I think you gotta get rid of your Loyal Marines now while you can. Get 3 fresh ships where your city is, perhaps somewhere else. You can see white has 2 ships now in the relic planet in cluster 4. I think you gotta build some presence down there, so maybe put the 3 ships there to make it 5. But it's tough. It's tough. Red has 2 starports. Blue has 2 starports. And we haven't seen any construction cards played. So we see Loyal Marines is being spent right now. So they have 3 ships to place anywhere that they control. So they're wanting to put them on the fuel planet, but they cannot because they don't control there. But they can do it in the weapon planet right next to it if they really want to contest it, and they decide just to go down south where the 2 building slots are. And that makes sense because they can build starports there, they can catapult out, they can build a city there. As Mystic, you do want a relic city because when you tax to pivot, that gives you a psionic when you pivot to tax or copy to tax. And so by having that, you get to do it that way. So that's pretty cool. And then we see triple influence here. And now we see Construction 5 is played by blue. Yeah, they're building. Or no, not by blue. This is by white here. And again, this makes sense. They hadn't played a construction card yet. They're filling up both building slots, and mixed feelings about this. I think they can get away with this because they had the 3 extra ships, but you got to keep building more ships. And so we see now that the blue's getting mass uprising, and so we'll see where they want to put those 4 ships. And so yeah, they're doing cluster 3, which makes sense. They've already claimed that gate. They have the starport there, so now they can get more building slots. And so now with their copy action, they're building a material city. So now it's red's turn here. Red has 2 cards left, and so they're going to have to copy or pivot here. I would probably save my aggression card for last. It's a good rule of thumb. If you have a couple cards left, maybe 3 cards, maybe save it. He decides not to. And so he's just going to influence, or you can use a weapon as well to do a fight. Or he can do a construction card. So he's copying to do construction. He's using a weapon as a psionic to do another ship. So he's building 2 ships. So that makes sense. I just probably would have gotten rid of the 6 unless he has a plan with that 6. And so here we see the payoff here is that the 4 was played, so now he can surpass with his last card. Yeah, it's interesting right now. So white is definitely gone for the court strategy. So they have a lot of agents in the court. They're going to get Spacing Union and Silver Tongues most likely. But they do have a very vulnerable city in Cluster 1. We see blue is out of cards, so they're not able to do anything. And for white's turn, by the way, they just moved 2 ships to the gate and 4 just to guard it and help protect their cities as they try to do other things. And so red can now... so now their red is looking at where they want to move, or just influence. So they're going for Song of Freedom. And that's going to be it. So they moved into gate 2, it looks like. Or I guess the fuel planet, sorry. Now we have scoring, so Tycoon goes to blue, and second place goes to red. Now it's Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 here, we see red is declaring Tycoon again. They can go for Song of Freedom, but there's no cities they control. And so they can just get rid of it and cycle that card. It looks like they're going to move in and then secure it. So now they're getting rid of white's city up north. And the ship was mistakenly taken away, but I think they put it back. So white's initial position is pretty much wrecked. And the reason this is happening is because they weren't able to expand, and they didn't play a construction card when everyone else did. So if you recall, they did have a construction card. They could have surpassed, but they kept it, and they should have built another starport and built a ship is what they should have done. We see a pivot to tax, so they tax their relic planet. Now they also get a psionic because they're mystic. They also seize the initiative. And now it's blue's turn, and blue's going to play the 5, and they're also going to pivot, and they, I guess, tax. They could influence as well, but most likely they're just going to tax a fuel, if I had to guess, perhaps a material. But yeah, so they take they think they can take 2, but they realize that because they pivoted, they can only take 1. I'm forgetting. They're the fuel drinkers. So when they pivot, they do just like the mystic. They took a material, but because they pivoted, they get a fuel as our fuel drinker. So now we see empath declared by white. So they're pretty confident they can get this, but they don't have any psionic cities. Only red has a psionic city, so this is a interesting choice here. They also don't have loyal impasse. Red does, so this may be tough for them to get. We see them use their Sonic Relic combo to get little keepers, and then we see Construction Union. And so I think Construction Union is alright. We see them tax a relic, and they're taking a psionic, or so maybe we missed something there, but yeah, Mystic wants psionics, they want relics, they want the court, but you have to understand that winning in the court does not win you the game. You have to pivot it to winning ambitions, and this is going to be tricky when you declare empath, because that's something that red can easily contest. And then we see a copy to tax, and so they're getting a relic and then taking a fuel for a fuel drinker. Then we see the 4 played by red, so they're surpassing, so they can tax. So they're taxing a psionic, so now they're winning empath. They can go for Galactic Bards, perhaps. Galactic Bards is a nice card. It gives you an alternate way to declare ambitions. Certain tables, when you play, they always declare ambitions, but other tables will wait for the last second to declare, and so Galactic Bards is a nice way to kind of deal with that. If your table doesn't like to declare ambitions to the last second, it gives you autonomy to kind of make the choice on what ambitions are declared if you don't lead. We see Warlord declared here. It's kind of early for this in one sense, but it also is going to force the players to return the trophies, which is nice. And now we see red's going for a city spread strat right now. So some of those buildings are weak, and the gates open. So white could easily move in there and kind of attack, but maybe that's not going to happen. Now we see white's playing the 5. We should see 2 ships here. Yep. So that's exactly the right call here. White needs more ships on the map. They're spending a relic 2 to get Silver Tongues. Now, Silver Tongues does have a turn wait on this, so it's not immediately available, but most likely they're going to steal it and pass back, if I had to guess. We see Fuel Cartel here. Fuel Drinker loves Fuel Cartel because it goes back to their play area when they have to discard from their ability. We see the 6 play by blue. I'm assuming 2 ships, but again, they could build a starport. They could build out their cities. They have a lot of flexibility because they claimed the whole cluster in 3. So we see a ship here, and yeah, I think maybe one more ship, or yeah, they're building a city and a weapon planet. Yeah, I think that's fine. Now they're going to get a city bonus. Just a +2 on this. Nothing crazy, but they easily can build another city or starport. Now we see the 2 played. There's no more ambitions to declare. I think there's no more administration cards, so that's kind of nice for them. But yeah, the 2 here, I think you could look at influencing here. Maybe you can test the Construction Union. Maybe you go for Fuel Cartel. That's probably what I would do if I was blue. I would just put 4 guys on Fuel Cartel and dare people to take it from me. So they're getting 2 there, and I don't know. Do you tax? You already have a lot of stuff. You only have 1 resource slot, I believe. Yeah, they do 1 more. And maybe tax something else. Yeah, so they tax 1 thing. So again, I think that's fine. I think I'm more risk averse. I probably would have put 4 instead of just the 3. But if you know your opponents don't have administration cards, it's kind of safe just to put even 2 there, honestly. Maybe 3, just because your opponents have a psionic, so they could block you with just a copy or pivot. But yeah, I think 3 is probably the right call if you know there's no more administration cards. And so now we see pivot here. So I think red is thinking about taking construction union. They're also thinking about just fighting white again, getting more trophies. They only have the one trophy, but I don't think the other players have any trophies right now. So yeah, so they take that with 1 pip. And then we see lattice spies in the court. Yeah, we don't see them do much else. Now we see a copy here. And so they can secure because of Loyal Keeper. And they take Loyal Impasse. And now they have Spacing Union. So now that was the payoff, is that they took back Loyal Impasse, but there's still a tie because they had to use a Psionic to do that. And so this is tough. So blue is leading here with the 6. And now they're using a relic to secure. Now Fuel Cartel. So now Tycoon is just a really good ambition for blue here because they have Fuel Drinker. They easily can get fuel, and then if they don't have fuel, it goes into their play area because they have the Fuel Cartel. They're also building out their last city with the material, and yeah, they're really set up well here. Now, they're not invulnerable. They have a lot of weak spots, specifically in Cluster 3. So you have the material planet with 1 city, and then they have the weapon planet with 1 city, and those cities just have 1 ship guarding them. Now we see the 2 this is technically just a copy here. So they're moving ships into the gate and 2, and yeah, this is interesting. Now we see a pivot here. We see a pivot just to build 1 more ship, and this may feel like a waste, but I will tell you this is worth it. 1 ship at the end here. This is for the big move. You have Loyal Keeper, you have Loyal Empath, you have Spacing Union. You can take a really big turn if you can get weapons. Now, unfortunately for white, his weapons planet was removed from Song of Freedom. But even without that, you can still have a really powerful turn here. So now we see white. Blue should have the initiative still. So this is blue is playing the 6. So they played the 6 mobilization. Now they're playing the 6 aggression. And they played the 2 administration beforehand when they knew no one else had any administration cards. So they're playing the trick very, very well, and they're controlling the tempo here. So these other players, red and white, are doing their own thing, but they have to do it to the rhythm of blue because blue is keeping control. They're keeping the lead card. And so unless someone seizes here, they're going to keep the initiative again. And so that's just something that top level play we've seen in the tournament. That's just what the best players are doing, is they look at the cards, they have an open discard pile, and they can see, okay, I think this is the last card. I can control the tempo here. And yes, someone can seize initiative, but if they don't, I'm just going to dictate the play, and we're going to play on my terms. And they may not always win, but that's still very strong play. And so we see movement from blue here. They're trying to catapult out, and they want to go to the relic city, but because of the way it works, they can't. So they move out of their material city into where their relic cities are. And they have 1 more move here, so they move to the gate. It's an interesting choice here, because the gate... Oh, so they have another move here they can do. Yeah, so now they're securing lattice spies. So that's the psionics. So now they're going to tie for first, I believe. Perhaps. No. They'll tie for second. So now we see the 5 played as a copy action. They use a fuel to move, and now they have 1 attack, and they're just going to do a raid. And if they do an intercept hit, they ignore the first intercept hit, but those other 2 are valid. And so that's going to be 5 self hits. because of the flame icon, I believe. Yeah. So the good news is they don't destroy cities. They don't do Relic Outrage, I believe. But, and they do have 4 keys on 4 dice, which is above average. And so what do you take from blue here? I think you go for Fuel Cartel and Lattice Spies. You could also go for Loyal Pilots and the Material. I think that both are valid options here. What I would not do is I would not, take only one thing. You definitely take 2 things here. So the question is, which 2 things is the most valuable? You could take Fuel Cartel and a Material. That may be worth considering. But I think, yeah, you go for Lattice Spies here. And, those ships are all damaged now, even after the repair. Or maybe they missed the repair, I can't remember. But yeah, that's how ARCS works, is that you go for big battles, and sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it doesn't. And here it paid off because they won Tycoon. And I think it secured them 2nd place in Empath. Or no, they tied for 1st in Empath. Yeah. So it's really rough for White because they were really banking on winning Empath, but instead they just got 2nd place points for tying. Blue's leading again. Now they're declaring Warlord. Makes sense, and the reason is because there's 3 weak ships just right there. Okay, it looks like they did catch that red should repair based on the starports he controls, which is 3. So there's 3 fresh ships there, but so it looks like he's not declaring Warlord after they caught that. Which again makes sense. You don't need to declare the first card you play. You should wait and kind of see sometimes, and this is a good example of that. Of just being patient. In the court, we see Gatekeepers is there. It's probably one of the top art for me, at least, in ARCS. It's just so fun. As far as its utility in this match, I think being able to discard it to get 4 ships, 1 each gate is okay. Being able to roll 2 extra dice, pretty relevant if Warlord's declared. So I think I would definitely be interested in it. And honestly, I may be just the most interested in its fuel icon, because Tycoon keeps getting declared. So I think for those reasons, I would definitely be keeping my eye on Gatekeepers. But we also have Skirmishers in the court we haven't talked about. Skirmishers is a really nice card because it gives you 3 extra ships. It's okay for re-rolling, but on average you're just getting half a ship hit per re-roll, and you only get 1 by default, maybe 2 if you have a fuel weapon already. So I like it for the 3 extra ships, and it is honestly worth it just for that. We see now some maneuvering here. We see Declare on Empath again. We see Spacing Union used by White to get this card back at the end of this turn, and they're going to move a bunch of ships with their catapult movement, and they got to decide, are they going to go... Yeah, they're going to leave ships behind on the gate. Again, that's a defensive maneuver right there, so they're protecting their own cities and starports. Now they're going to attack red, and most likely this is going to be a raid on a future turn. But because they don't have weapons, they can't immediately attack. So they're telegraphing to the table, hey, I'm going to attack or tax red and get captives from them. Okay, so we see a material I believe is going to be used as a fuel here because of loyal pilots, and then now they have weapons. So now they're going to catapult out, and now they're also going to hit red. And they're going for the starports. And so remember, with Overseer, they get to repair per, I believe it's fresh starport they control. Well, guess what? That's about to change. And so that's the first pip is going to be an attack. And so White's also realizing that they should have moved one ship over because they had another move. And so they kind of go back and allow that. But here, I think we're maybe missing some attacks here. But yeah, so we missed the roll here, but there was a raid, and we see blue did damage a starport, and they're taking back a lot of spies. And then because they have seeker drones, they get to do one repair. So not as good as quartermaster, but it's still pretty strong. And they do another raid here, and so they lose. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they lose any ship. Yeah, they lose one ship, and they got 3 keys. So now they can take another card here. They're going to destroy a starport, and they decide to take construction union. So this is pretty rough for red, and this is an important dynamic to remember in 3-player, is that you can be ganged up on pretty quickly by the other players, and it may not benefit one of them. So right now, red and blue are neck and neck in points, and white isn't doing anything to blue. And so red is going to get hammered by both players, while blue is only can get hit by red. And so blue is going to be in an advantage because of this. And that's something where table talk is important. Just protecting your gates is important. And also just being lucky, just really, really lucky can be important too, because sometimes these raids backfire. And so sometimes players will blow up their whole fleet as they're trying to attack. And so we see one more raid here. And so yeah, blues is just going all out, and they take fuel cartel, which I think they showed a lot of patience in taking that, and then they take away the weapon, which is brutal. So now it's much trickier for red to retaliate in the same way, because again, blue's doing this on a Lee card that's mobilization. There was no aggression on the forecast, but with a weapon card, aggression is always on the forecast. Battles are always inevitable with an opponent with a weapon. We see a pivot here from red. They're building another starport, repairing and kind of rebuilding, and those ships by blue are pretty vulnerable, but we'll see. So red probably should play an aggression card here. They're doing the 6 because they don't want to get surpassed. Oh, interesting. So red is declaring empath. So this is really interesting. So now we have red and white both thinking that they are going to win empath, and that's going to be beneficial to double up on this. And if you look at the board, it does make sense, because Mystic for white, you're going to get extra resources with Psionic specifically. And then for red, they have the Psionic City. Now, they're looking at their quartermaster card, and I think they're checking to see if they should have repaired ships after being defending in battle. But the issue right now is they only control 2 starports, and only one of them is fresh. And so they're deciding whether or not how to attack blue, because they're going after blue in the Relic City and Cluster 2. And so because there's 2 cities there, if they do a raid, it's kind of protected, because they're not really going to destroy unless they get unlucky. The issue is they have a lot of intercept dice if they do that. So yeah, so I think they're so they roll 3 city hits, which is not great. So they do trigger outrage. There's nothing in the court. Oh, there is the gatekeepers. So they take gatekeepers, which is nice. And they're saying what to raid back. They probably want their weapon back, but that's not going to happen. Construction Union is probably a good bet, but yeah, they take Fuel Cartel, which could be fine, but Tycoon's not declared. And if I'm blue, I'm not declaring Tycoon at this point because I know someone else is going to win it with that card. We see Arms Union pops into the court. Arms Union is probably my favorite Union card because you get an aggression card back. Aggression cards are generally what you want to play at the end of the round, especially end of the game. And just getting an extra card that is an aggression card is really strong. Okay, so we are seeing a fight here. We're attacking white, and pretty brutal series of events there. So normally for Signal Breaker, you ignore one intercept hit, and that was the equivalent of rolling Snake Eyes. And so it was pretty unlucky there. They're hoping to do some more damage, but now white has a great opportunity to do some raiding, do some taxing, get some more captives, and they can spread out and do that too. And so they spread out first with a Psionic, and now they can tax 2 times, or tax once, I guess, and they're gonna get a captive from red, and they're going for the weapon planet here, and they get a Psionic back. So good move by white. This is a really strong play, and the reason this is we see some other things here. So looks like they're deciding to use some more resources to do a Sonic. There's a different move, and they're going to do a fight as well. So, I'm not so sure about this. I think just keeping control of the city. Yeah, so I think they go back and they're keeping control of this 2 cities by red. You can tax them. And now they're going to do one raid. So they do blow up something if they want it, but they don't have to. And they get some keys. And so they do blow up the fuel, which was already outraged. And the question is, what do they want for 2 keys? This would be Fuel Cartel or Gatekeepers. Probably Fuel Cartel. Yeah, it's close. I think I would take Fuel Cartel in this situation. I would also look at definitely trying to discard it at some point when you can steal fuel, but that may be tricky if no one taxes fuel. Yeah, I guess there is a case to do Gatekeepers just because, as we've noted with Mystic, they have trouble getting ships on the map. And that is just 4 ships and the gates that could let you catapult move your other ships more easily. And people are not going to be thinking about that. Usually when you're holding it, they're thinking about the 2 extra dice in the gates. They're not thinking about putting 4 extra ships in the gates. And we see a slightly above average roll here from blue. So 3 hits, and they're just going for trophies, and so now they're going to go for a raid with their last action pip. And they roll well. They said, yeah, it's they get rid of the starport, and they get rid of a ship, and they repair 1, and I don't know if there's anything really besides Gatekeepers from the take. Yeah, the Psionic is on the 3 key slot, and that's just really hard to get. Okay, so now we have Tyrant declared by white. That makes sense because they've been collecting captives slowly. If you're wondering, why do people go for the city spread strat? Why do people try to get all their cities out? Well, the reason is because what they do is they try to go for ambitions like Warlord and Tyrant, which are really hard to compete in sometimes. And they're banking on people not being coordinated and getting enough trophies back because they're so spread out. Now, one disadvantage to doing the city spread strat is that players can focus on Tyrant, and you can be so far behind that if they double up or triple up on Tyrant, then there's nothing you can do even if all your cities are on the map, because all your cities are controlled by other players. And we haven't really seen that this game. We haven't really seen someone just go for a quick city spread. We've seen Blue does have all their cities up, but that's not kind of what they're doing. They're kind of controlling parts of the board and kind of dictating that. So we've seen other weapons being used here with a mobilization card, this time from white. So we got 2 cards here, and they got 2 keys on 2 dice. That's above average. So they get 1, 2, and this is their last action pip here. And so they get 2 keys, and so we see them take Lattice Spies because that has a psionic symbol. So that puts them in the lead here. We're seeing Blue seizing here. And I'm not sure exactly what their plan is here. They could go, oh, yeah, they're just going to go to their neighbor white and fight back. No, if they can. They may not be able to, but they're just going to attack white there. And then now we see the issue with Blue. As we mentioned, they weren't technically going for a city spread strat, but we can kind of see some of the weaknesses here. So Red moved in from the Gate 2 to the Relic City. Now they're moving into the open city there. They can also move into the open starport there. And if they really want to, they can move one more to where that weapon planet is. We see Blue swing a 3 construction, which makes sense because they have the construction units, so they can take it back. The issue for Blue is that I would say they see repair the city. I would have built a starport there if I was Blue, because I need more ship production because you only have 1 starport on the map, and it's controlled by white. So those, I guess you have another one. So I guess it's not as needed, but that starport would have been helpful. We see white moving another ship, and then they're going to do a raid, and they get about average. And so they're going to blow up the starport. They get 2 keys. They damage 1 ship. And so they take, we don't really see what guild card they take here. So they took Gatekeepers is what they took. Now we see Blue with a weapon and a construction card. So remember, Blue moved over to white starport. This is what they had in mind. They wanted to do 2 to 3 fights here, and they had 1 card left, more than anyone else because of their union card. So they have 4 ships, and then with repair drones, they're going to repair. So the question is, do you do a softening fight with skirmish dice or assault dice so you don't have to worry about intercepts, or do you just go for more raiding? And they go for more raiding, which is the right call generally. They do get some damage. I think they got 4 hits, which is pretty fortunate. So I think it was 3, then they repair 1. And they take a bunch of keys. So they got 5 keys on 4 dice, which is super duper lucky. Yeah, it's very lucky to get more than 4 keys on 4 dice. And they do destroy the starport, and so then they repair their stuff with the other 2 actions from the card. And so now I do believe they win Empath because they took 2. And then they have the +5. And so they're getting 11 points, and then their city bonus, so they'll be 16 points. And so Tyrant goes to white, and then Blue is going to shoot up. So now they're 1 point from winning the game. So this is something that we've seen several times in ARCs, and for the tournament is someone gets 1 point away from winning, And the question is, what do you do to stop him? And unlike other games, it actually is very possible to stop the player who is 1 point away from winning, just because there is no bonus points. There's no secret ways to get points. They're all open to the table. And so the main way you do it is you prevent them from getting extra cards. So I would prevent blue from getting Armies Union. I would do whatever I can to make sure blue doesn't get any extra cards. And then I would make sure whatever ambitions are declared, they're not going to win. It is important to coordinate with your opponent. So like if I'm going to seize, I'm going to make sure that it's going to be beneficial to him, because if we both seize and the person 1 point away from winning doesn't seize, they're going to de facto have an extra card. So just something to keep in mind, that you may want to coordinate somewhat with your opponent to prolong the game, because blue just needs to win one ambition to win and end the game. Red is not necessarily thinking about prolonging the game per se. They just need to win more points. So if they win all the points, they're going to win. White, unfortunately, is too far behind to end the game. They need to extend the game one chapter. And so you may want to try to put red in position to prolong the game, because if the game isn't extended, then blue would win. And so that's another way to try to do it. Right now, and for this hand, we have a couple of taxes, and because the players are all spread about, we see some captives being taken and whatnot. But really, like, the main focus here is this is building up to the climax. This is building up to, can we stop blue? Can we double up on these ambitions? And so that's what they could decide to do. We see red could have declared keeper again, but he's not. And I think that's fair, because red probably has other ambitions they want to declare. And then we see two Sonics played, so they have 4 battle pips if they want it. They get 2 keys, and I believe that is a destroyed building. Yeah. So we see that. We see outrage in the court, and so those are a bunch of trophies. So red is probably going for trophies. They want Warlord declared next if they can, perhaps. They're taking a lot of spies. They have Elder Broker. Yeah, I'm not sure what the best strategy is here. I think they could probably secure Galactic Bards to get another card, but Galactic Bards is just 1 key, and it's very weak. And since Keeper is declared, that's something that you got to be careful of, is that someone could easily take that away from you because it's just 1 key. But we'll see. I think so. They did that with 1 action, 1 psionic, and red's taking 1 psionic back, because technically you don't put all your resources on your card. You decide 1 at a time as you do the actions. And so they did 1 psionic, and now they have 2 action pips, and so they should probably move and reposition. But they're vulnerable. I mean, you have white in Sector 1, can move the ships over or keep the ships where they are and attack red's starport and city. So I think that's the danger for red right here. Okay, so I think another thing to think about here is, if we don't declare ambitions, then it's going to be really hard to coordinate to stop blue from getting the points needed to win. Because Warlord wasn't declared, they're still going to get their bonus city points. And so red's path to victory is just winning all the ambitions that they can. So they do decide to take that, and then there's call to action. So call to action is one of the strongest Vox cards in the game, just because it gives you an extra action card. Now, You don't know what it's going to be until you get it. And we see white moving in just like we thought, because it's near the end of the game. They want to prolong the game, and if they can win the ambitions, they will. I think they're spending a resource here from Loyal Impasse, and they're going to do a raid, I think, perhaps. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But yeah, this is what red should be afraid of, is that white is going to rule this and keep messing with their stuff. So we see they're taking Elder Broker because it has 2 keys. And so yeah, this has been a fun game. I watched some of it when it was streamed, but I didn't get to finish it, so we'll have to see who ends up winning this. Outrage Spreads is now in the court. Outrage Spreads is a very brutal one. Someone could do that on Relic, and that could make it really tough for anyone to win Keeper. Blue is now playing, and they're going to take Arms Union. So remember that card we said we didn't want them to get? Well, now they got it. There's also Call to Action in the court, so that's another card we don't want them to get because we don't want them to have extra turns. And so that's ultimately, I think, what the path of victory is for Blue, is let the other players fight me or fight each other. I just want extra cards, so that way whatever ambitions are declared, I'm going to have the last word to do what I need to do. And notice, like, Blue just had the high cards here, and so unless someone seizes, they're going to have initiative again. And so that's tough. We see a pivot here, and they're going to build a city damaged just to block white from building more ships there. But yeah, it's now we see a seize here. And so remember, blue didn't seize, red already seized, now white seized. So now with Arms Union, that's going to be 2 extra cards for blue. Plus you have Call to Action if blue gets that. So that'll be 3 extra cards. And this is where Arcs isn't technically a trick taker, but having that trick taker mindset is really important in the strategy. It does give you a leg up when you're playing. And it can be hard because you've been playing 2, maybe 3 hours, and it's hard. So now we see a city spread strat from white at the very end here. So they're going all out. They got to win, but it's hard to block blue, like, because you have Tycoon, you have Warlord, and you have Keeper. That's a lot to block blue from. You know, blue's pivoting, and they're going to get that card back. So what do they do here? They're just going to attack white, I think, in that, material planet there. And they can do a raid or skirmish dice. Yeah, they're just going to skirmish dice. They just want to damage those ships. They're going to get that card back, so they do 1 assault dice. Yeah, I think there's a 1 in 6 chance you do an intercept. I think it's fine to take that risk if you want. I think they're reconsidering here. But yeah, they're it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish here. If you want to do 4, now they're being okay. Just gonna go just do a raid up there. Okay, so they're doing a raid up there with their 3 ships, and they roll very lucky. So we mentioned that 5 keys on 4 dice was above normal, and they just got 5 keys on 3 dice. The max would be 6 keys, so very, very lucky. And so they get Little Keeper, and they get Fuel Cartel. So that could have easily gone sideways there. They could have blown up the cities instead. They could have just whiffed, but instead they got almost a max roll. But that's the name of the game. You got to play to your strengths, and sometimes if you take a risky move, it does pay off, and that's what we see here. We see what I spy is being used to get the initiative for red. We're going to see a bunch of resources being spent. Now red is going with 5 pips with the psionics being used, and then they have weapons. So, yeah, they need trophies. Yeah, where do you fight? Where do you have ships? You have 3 ships there, so that's 1 and 2, and then you have 3. Yeah, so you have 2 attacks here. So the sad news is you probably only have 1 raid, because you're probably going to destroy this city with your first attack, unless you get really lucky. But they're going to have 6 dice. I mean, you're hoping for like 8 keys here, but they only get 2. So we see the other side of the dice here. So that's below average, but it does happen. And so we saw blue get lucky with 5 keys on 3 dice, 5 keys on 4 dice, and then when you roll 6 dice, you only get 2 keys. And so if they could have taken away Will Keepers, that would have been amazing, but they can't. So now blue has 2 relic icons for Keeper. They're going to get second in Warlord, I'm pretty sure, as well. And then we know they have an extra card because they didn't seize, and then they have an extra card from Arms Union. So yeah, that's kind of tough. I think if I'm right here, I'd probably just try to blow up that blue ship and maybe call it a day, maybe move out. But yeah, the game's probably about to be over. And the reason is not because blue has a great board position as much as they're going to have extra turns. And so because the board is so entangled, like if white had extra turns, like white could easily pivot and attack blue in that fuel planet in cluster 4. That's an empty city, empty starport. But I don't think white has enough actions to do that. And that's just going to be tricky. So now we see a raid here against white, and they get 1 key, and they give a ship to white, and they can get anything with the 1 key. So right now we see white swing a 4 to pivot. And so now they can raid red here, going for Galactic Bards. And Fuel Cartel. So they're giving ships to red here. That's going to help against blue for Warlord. And they do take a trophy. And they do outrage weapons. And so, yeah, so take Galactic Bards and Fuel Cartel. So if things ended now, blue would still win. But blue still has a card to play, and they're going to raid white. And let's see. So they get 3 keys and 5 dice, a little above average, not crazy. They do destroy the Material City now. And now they're going to take Galactic Bards, and so now they have Keeper under wrap. And they also get Fuel Cartel. And that's pretty much the game, but they have another card to play. And so they can even go for Warlord now. And so see what they decide to do is, so they're going to do one more attack, which is skirmish dice, and they get, again, very, very lucky dice. They wipe out the fleet there. And now they play their extra card. And they're going to do another fight there. They don't need a raid. They just need to get more trophies. And so they roll again, and they get all blanks. But they have 2 more attacks. So they get 2 hits there. And then now do one more time. They don't need to do raid dice. They because the building hits will just come from any ship hits. So that's what they do, and they blow up everything. And so now they're going to win Tycoon because of Fuel Cartel. They're going to win Warlord because of this crazy battle action at the end here. And they're going to win Keeper as well. And that's not just 4 points, 6 points, 9 points. So that would be 19 points. They're going to get 15 extra points. So 15 extra points because of the city bonus for each ambition category. So if you haven't seen this before with arcs, the score that can loop, and so we're going to see that in a second with blue, where they win every single ambition here. Or maybe they don't win Warlord. I can't remember. But they get enough points where they do loop, and so they're going to put the marker there. And so that's the game. So great play by Blue Spruce here, just showing the points of extra cards and the points of playing the map. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.